To escape a lonely Christmas, he dates the town's most rejected woman, but the truth changes everything. Welcome, beautiful souls. Is this your first time here, or are you already part of our cherished family? Drop your name below. We'd love to connect with you. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this magical journey. Take a deep breath. Our story begins now, with love. Snow fell silently outside the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ivana Bastian's downtown Chicago apartment, each flake carrying the weight of memories she couldn't shake. At 32, she'd achieved what most would consider the American dream, senior associate at Preston and Morgan Law, a corner office with a view of Lake Michigan, and a bank account that had long since erased the financial struggles of her childhood. Yet on this particular December evening, success felt like a hollow victory. Ivana's reflection stared back at her from the frost-kissed glass, high cheekbones inherited from her father, eyes that held the same determination as her mother's, and skin the color of rich mahogany that society never let her forget. She reached up to touch her recently straightened hair, remembering Mother Angelina's words from so many years ago. "Baby girl, your natural crown is beautiful, but this world might make you wear armor sometimes. Just remember, the armor isn't who you are." The buzzing of her phone interrupted her reverie. Mother Angelina's name lit up the screen, as if summoned by memory alone. "I was just thinking about you," Ivana answered, her professional facade melting into the soft tones reserved for family. "Must be that special connection we got." Mother Angelina's warm voice filled the room. "You sound tired, baby. You eating right, taking care of yourself?" Ivana's eyes drifted to the untouched takeout container on her kitchen counter. "I'm fine, Mama. Just finished the Richardson merger. Big win for the firm." Mother Angelina hummed, unconvinced. "And how many nights you spend sleeping on that fancy office couch to get it done?" "Only 3, Ivana chuckled, then sobered. "But Mama, you should have seen their faces when I closed the deal. Mr. Preston actually looked surprised, like he couldn't believe I'd pulled it off." A heavy silence filled the line before Mother Angelina spoke, her voice carrying the weight of years fighting the same battles. "Baby, you remember what happened at your 5th grade science fair?" Ivana's hand tightened around the phone. Of course she remembered. How could she forget? "I'd spent weeks on that solar system model," she said softly, "used Papa's old watch parts to make the planets move. That project was a masterpiece," Mother Angelina affirmed, "should have won first place. Instead, Mrs. Henderson gave it to Emma Palmer's papier-mâché volcano, said my project was too advanced, must have had help." Ivana's free hand clenched into a fist. "You were so angry." "Chile, I was ready to set that school board on fire." Mother Angelina laughed, but there was steel beneath the warmth. "But you know what I remember most? What you said to me that night." Ivana closed her eyes, the memory washing over her. "I said I'd just have to be so good they couldn't ignore me anymore." "That's right. And look at you now, baby girl. Top of your class at Princeton, crushing it at that big shot law firm. You made yourself impossible to ignore." The pride in her mother's voice soothed some of the day's wounds, but couldn't erase them completely. Ivana walked to her home office, fingers trailing along the frames on the wall. Her law school graduation, first courtroom victory, the day she'd bought Mother Angelina her house in a safer neighborhood. "Sometimes I wonder if it's enough, Mama," she admitted, stopping at a photo of her parents. Her father in his military uniform, Mother Angelina, radiant in a yellow dress, both of them beaming with possibility. Today at the celebration dinner, Margaret Whitman, you remember her, the senior partner's wife. The one who asked if you were the help at last year's Christmas party. That's the one. She came up to me after the merger announcement and said, "You're a real credit to your people, dear. Like I just won a prize at a dog show." Lord, give me strength, Mother Angelina muttered. What did you say? I smiled, thanked her for the compliment, then excused myself to take a call that didn't exist. You're stronger than me, baby. In my day, I might have accidentally spilled my drink on that expensive dress of hers. They shared a laugh, but it was tinged with the exhaustion of battles fought across generations. Your father would be so proud of you, Mother Angelina said softly. 10 years gone, and not a day passes I don't think about how his eyes would light up seeing you now. Ivana's throat tightened. I miss him, Mama. Sometimes I come home from these big wins and just wish. I know, baby. I know. A comfortable silence settled between them, filled with unspoken understanding. Finally, Mother Angelina cleared her throat. Now, about Christmas. Mama, no, Ivana interrupted, knowing where this was heading. No blind dates with the deacon's son, or that nice doctor from your church, or anyone else you've scouted. Can you blame a mother for wanting her baby to find love? 32 years old, successful, beautiful. You should be sharing your life with someone special. I'm focused on making partner right now. Dating is... Ivana trailed off, remembering her last relationship disaster. Marcus, another attorney, who'd seemed perfect until he'd told her she was different from other black women. Like that was a compliment. It's complicated. Life is complicated, baby girl. Doesn't mean you stop living it. The doorbell rang, startling Ivana. Mama, someone's at the door. Probably Mrs. Chen from next door. She's been bringing me soup since I mentioned working late. At least someone's feeding you, Mother Angelina teased. Go on, but don't think this conversation is over. And Ivana? Yes, Mama? Remember what I always tell you. Your worth isn't measured by their ignorance. You're a bastion woman. We don't break, we don't bend, we rise. Tears pricked at Ivana's eyes. I love you, Mama. Love you more, baby girl. Now go get that door before Mrs. Chen thinks you're working late again. Ending the call, Ivana wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. The reflection in the window showed a woman her father would indeed be proud of, successful, resilient, unbroken. But as she moved to answer the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. December in Chicago had always brought unexpected turns to her life, from the day her father died in a winter storm to the scholarship letter that changed her future. What she didn't know, as she reached for the doorknob, was that this particular December evening would set in motion events that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, trust, and the masks people wear to survive. Little did she know, across town, Leander Cyrus was staring at his own reflection, making a decision that would collide their worlds in ways neither could imagine. But that was still to come, for now there was just Ivana, the snow, and the endless Chicago night, holding its breath for what tomorrow might bring. The door opened, but instead of Mrs. Chen, she found herself facing an unexpected visitor who would change the course of her carefully ordered life. And somewhere in the city, a clock struck midnight, marking the moment when her story truly began. Mother Angelina's words echoed in her mind. We don't break, we don't bend, we rise. She would need that strength more than ever in the days to come, as the careful walls she'd built around her heart faced their greatest test yet. The snow continued to fall, each flake a promise of change, of challenge, of possibility. And in that moment, standing in her doorway between past and future, Ivana Bastian took the first step toward a destiny she never could have imagined. One that would test not just her resilience, but her capacity to love and be loved in return. Chapter 2. A desperate arrangement. The morning sun painted Michigan Avenue in hues of gold and shadow as Leander Cyrus walked briskly through the December chill, his Italian leather shoes crunching against fresh snow. At 35, he carried himself with the easy confidence of old money, but his eyes held a restlessness that generations of wealth couldn't soothe. His phone buzzed for the 12th time that morning, another message from his sister Charlotte that he wasn't ready to face. Ducking into Intelligentsia Coffee, his refuge from both the cold and family expectations, Leander loosened his cashmere scarf and finally opened the message. "Dad's arranging your seating at the Christmas gala next to Victoria Hammond. You remember her? Stanford Law, family money, waspy enough to make Mother happy. Don't you dare skip this year, Lee. Some of us actually care about this family's reputation." Leander's jaw clenched as he typed back, "Already have plans." The lie felt bitter on his tongue, but not as bitter as the thought of another holiday season playing the prodigal son. His phone immediately lit up with Charlotte's response. "What plans? Another revolutionary startup pitch? Or is this like last year's mysterious girlfriend who conveniently got food poisoning on Christmas Eve?" Before he could respond, a voice cut through his thoughts. "Sir? Your usual?" Looking up, Leander met the concerned gaze of Jake, his favorite barista. "Sorry, lost in thought. Yeah, the usual. And—" His eyes drifted to the woman standing at the pickup counter, her presence commanding attention without seeking it. She wore a crimson blazer that stood out like a flame against Chicago's winter palette, her natural confidence making even the simple act of waiting for coffee seem purposeful. He'd seen her here before. It was hard not to notice her. She ordered the same thing every morning, double espresso, no sugar. Sometimes she'd be reviewing legal briefs, her focus intense enough to bend steel. Other times she'd be on her phone, her voice shifting seamlessly between warm laughter and sharp corporate authority. "And another double espresso," Leander added, making a decision that would alter both their lives. "For the lady in red," Jake raised an eyebrow, but nodded, used to Leander's occasional generous moods. As he prepared the drinks, Leander's phone buzzed again, this time with a message from his father. "Charlotte tells me you're being difficult about Christmas. Again, the Hammond girl could be good for you. Better than wasting more of your trust fund on pipe dreams." The familiar mix of anger and disappointment churned in his stomach. 6 years ago, he'd walked away from Cyrus International to pursue his own vision, sustainable energy solutions that could transform communities. His father had called it a phase, then a rebellion, and finally a disappointment. The last in a long line of ways Leander had failed to be the son Lawrence Cyrus wanted. "Here you go," Jake said, sliding 2 cups across the counter. "Good luck." Taking a deep breath, Leander approached the woman in red. Up close, he noticed details he'd missed from afar, the subtle arch of her eyebrows as she read something on her phone, the way her fingers drummed a gentle rhythm against her leather portfolio, the quiet strength in her posture that seemed to dare the world to underestimate her. "Excuse me," he said, holding out the coffee. "I believe this is your usual—" She looked up, surprise flickering across her features before being replaced by careful assessment. "And you know my usual because I've been coming here every morning for the past year, and some things are worth noticing." He offered a smile that didn't quite hide his nervousness. "I'm Leander." "I know," she replied, catching him off guard. "Your picture was in Forbes last month. Tech's most eligible black sheep. Quite the headline." Heat crept up his neck. "Not my finest moment in press." "At least they got your good side." A hint of amusement curved her lips. "I'm Ivana Bastian, and while I appreciate the coffee, Mr. Cyrus, I generally prefer to buy my own drinks." "What about dinner?" The words tumbled out before he could stop them. Ivana's eyebrows rose slightly, her expression a perfect blend of intrigue and skepticism. "That's quite a leap from an unsolicited coffee," she said, "especially considering we've never spoken before this moment." Leander glanced at his phone, still buzzing with family demands, then back at Ivana. Maybe it was desperation, maybe fate, or maybe just the way the morning light caught the subtle highlights in her hair, but suddenly he knew exactly what he needed to do. What if I told you I have a proposition, one that could benefit us both? I'm a corporate attorney, Mr. Cyrus. Propositions are my specialty. She checked her watch, a vintage Cartier that spoke of both success and taste. You have exactly 7 minutes before my first meeting. Make them count. Taking a seat at a nearby table, Leander laid out his situation. The demanding family, the Christmas expectations, the mounting pressure to conform to a life he'd spent years escaping. So, you want a fake girlfriend for Christmas? Ivana's voice held equal parts disbelief and amusement. That's creative. I want a partner, Leander corrected. Someone brilliant enough to hold their own with my family, successful enough to be beyond reproach, and independent enough to understand why this arrangement makes sense. And you think I fit that description because I've seen you handle conference calls in 3 different languages, because you carry yourself like someone who's fought for everything they've earned, and because right now you're not dismissing me. You're calculating whether this could work in your favor too. Ivana sat back, studying him with new interest. You're more observant than your reputation suggests. My reputation suggests a lot of things. Most of them are wrong. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Look, I know how this sounds, but my family's Christmas celebration isn't just holidays and presents. It's a 2-week production at our Aspen estate, complete with charity galas, business meetings, and enough social politics to fill a Machiavelli novel. And you think bringing home a black girlfriend will somehow improve this situation? The edge in her voice could have cut diamonds. Leander met her gaze steadily. I think bringing home someone who terrifies them with their competence might finally get them to see me, the real me, not the disappointment they've created in their minds. So I'd be what? Your shield? Your statement. You'd be my partner in what I promise will be the most interesting Christmas of your life. He pulled out a business card, writing on the back. Here's what I'm offering. 2 weeks in Aspen, all expenses paid, plus a consultant's fee that might interest you. In return, you help me show my family that success doesn't have to follow their narrow definition. Ivana took the card, her eyes widening slightly at the number he'd written. That's generous. That's desperate, he corrected with a self-deprecating smile, but it's also an opportunity. 2 weeks of luxury, networking with some of the most powerful families in the country, and the chance to make a few privileged people very uncomfortable just by being yourself. And what makes you think I don't have my own holiday plans? Because you've been coming here every morning for the past year, including weekends. Because you work harder than anyone else in your firm. Yes, I did my research. And because when I mentioned Aspen, you didn't immediately say no. A notification popped up on Ivana's phone. My 7 minutes are up, Mr. Cyrus. Leander, he corrected. If you're going to be my girlfriend, you should probably use my first name. I haven't agreed to anything, she reminded him, standing and gathering her things. But she tucked his card into her portfolio instead of leaving it on the table. Have dinner with me tonight, he said. Le Colonial, 8 p.m. We can discuss the details, and if you decide it's not for you, at least you get a good meal out of it. Ivana paused, then pulled out her own business card. I'll think about it, but Mr. Cyrus, if I show up tonight, it's not because I'm saying yes. It's because I'm curious to see if you're as clever as you think you are. With that, she walked away, her heels clicking a confident rhythm against the floor. Leander watched her go, feeling something he hadn't expected. Hope. His phone buzzed again with another message from Charlotte, but for the first time in weeks, the family pressure didn't feel quite so suffocating. Jake appeared at his elbow, clearing the empty cups. So, that looked intense. That looked like the beginning of something, Leander replied, still staring at the door where Ivana had disappeared. I'm just not sure what. What he didn't say was that in those brief minutes of conversation, he'd felt more alive than he had in years. Whatever game they were about to play, whatever arrangement they might make, one thing was certain: Ivana Bastyan was going to change his life. As he stepped back into the December morning, the city seemed different somehow, brighter, fuller of possibility. His phone buzzed again, but this time he smiled as he turned it off. Let them wait. For the first time in years, he had something they couldn't control, couldn't predict, couldn't manipulate. He had a chance at something real, even if it started with a lie. The snow began to fall again, soft and silent, as Chicago's morning rush swirled around him. Somewhere in this city, Ivana Bastyan was considering his offer, weighing the pros and cons with that brilliant legal mind. And Leander Cyrus, black sheep of one of America's wealthiest families, found himself praying she'd say yes to what might be the craziest proposition of both their lives. Chapter 3. Terms and Conditions. Le Colonial's soft lighting cast intimate shadows across the white tablecloth as Ivana studied the man sitting across from her. Leander Cyrus had loosened his tie, his earlier corporate polish giving way to something more authentic. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation and the gentle clink of fine china, but between them stretched a moment of contemplative silence. "You're wondering if this is crazy," Leander said finally, a hint of amusement in his voice as he swirled the Bordeaux in his glass. "I'm wondering if you're crazy," Ivana corrected, but there was no bite in her tone. This morning's proposal was unexpected. "Life's best moments usually are." She raised an eyebrow. "Do you always speak in fortune cookie wisdom?" "Only when I'm nervous," he admitted, and something in his honesty made her smile despite herself. The waiter appeared with their appetizers, sea bass carpaccio for her, duck à l'orange for him. Ivana noticed how Leander thanked the server by name, asked about his family, small gestures that revealed character. "Tell me about your family," she said, watching his expression shift. "What am I potentially walking into?" Leander sat back, his fingers drumming a thoughtful rhythm on the table's edge. "The Cyrus dynasty. That's quite a story." He took a sip of wine, gathering his thoughts. "Imagine old money, really old money, trying desperately to maintain its relevance in a changing world. My father, Lawrence, runs Cyrus International like it's still 1950. My mother, Victoria, plans charity galas while medicating her disappointments. And my sister Charlotte, the one who's been texting you all day. You noticed that, huh?" He smiled wryly. "Charlotte's the perfect Cyrus heir. Brilliant at business, ruthless when necessary, and completely devoted to maintaining the family image. She's also the only person who still believes I can be saved from my rebellious ways. And those rebellious ways would be leaving the family business to start my own company, choosing renewable energy over old industries, refusing to marry within our social circle." His air quotes dripped with sarcasm. "But my greatest sin, actually wanting to make a difference instead of just making money." Ivana studied him over the rim of her wine glass. "Your startup, Helios Solutions, I read about it. Solar power infrastructure for underserved communities. You did your research?" "I'm a corporate attorney, Mr. Cyrus. Due diligence is my specialty." She set down her glass. "But what I couldn't find in my research was why. Why leave a guaranteed fortune to risk everything on a startup?" Something darkened in Leander's eyes. "Have you ever seen what true poverty looks like? Not the sanitized version we see in charity galas, but the real thing. I grew up in Detroit's East Side," Ivana said quietly. "So yes, I know exactly what it looks like." Their eyes met, understanding passing between them. 2 years ago," Leander continued, "I was in Nigeria closing a deal for Cyrus International. Standard procedure, buy up local resources, maximize profit margins. But there was this village near our operation site. No electricity, no running water. Kids doing homework by kerosene lamps when they could afford the fuel. And there I was, representing a company worth billions, haggling over land rights. What happened? I saw myself through their eyes. This privileged American, playing with their futures like it was just another business transaction. That night I couldn't sleep, kept thinking about all the wealth my family had accumulated over generations and how little of it actually made a difference in the world. So you walked away. I walked towards something better, he corrected. Helios Solutions isn't just about profit, it's about possibility. We're developing solar technology that's affordable, sustainable, and accessible to communities that have been ignored by traditional energy companies. Noble goal, Ivana murmured, but I'm guessing your family didn't see it that way. Leander's laugh held no humor. My father called it a charitable phase at first. Then when I refused to come back to Cyrus International, he started undermining my investor meetings, spreading rumors about my stability. Classic Lawrence Cyrus tactics. And yet you still go home for Christmas. Family is complicated. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. Which brings us back to why we're here. I don't just need a date for Christmas, Ivana. I need someone who understands what it's like to fight for your place in the world. Someone who won't be intimidated by old money or old prejudices. Someone who'll make them uncomfortable just by existing, she said bluntly. Someone who'll make them question their assumptions, he countered. About me, about success, about everything they think they know. The main courses arrived. Her herb-crusted salmon and his beef tenderloin creating a momentary pause in the conversation. Ivana used the interruption to gather her thoughts. Let's say I agree to this arrangement, she said finally. What exactly would it entail? Leander's face lit up with possibility. 2 weeks in Aspen starting December 20th. The Cyrus family Christmas extravaganza includes charity galas, business meetings, ski trips, formal dinners, the full high society circus. We'd need a convincing backstory, of course. How we met, how long we've been dating. 3 months, Ivana interrupted. Long enough to be serious about bringing me home for Christmas, not so long that people would question why they hadn't heard of me before. See? This is exactly why I need you. That brilliant legal mind. Save the flattery, Mr. Cyrus. Let's talk specifics. What's my role in this performance? Just be yourself, he said simply. Brilliant, accomplished, entirely too good for me. The goal isn't to appease my family. It's to challenge them. And what do I get out of this, besides your generous consulting fee? Besides 2 weeks at one of Aspen's most exclusive resorts. His eyes twinkled. Access to some of the most powerful business networks in the country, potential clients for your firm, and the satisfaction of watching a bunch of privileged people squirm when they realize they can't dismiss you. You make it sound almost fun. It could be, he said softly, with the right partner. Ivana felt something shift in the air between them, a current of possibility that had nothing to do with their proposed arrangement. She thought about Mother Angelina's words from that morning. Life is complicated, baby girl. Doesn't mean you stop living it. I have conditions, she said finally. Name them. First, we need to get our story straight, every detail. I won't be caught in a lie because we didn't coordinate our backstory. Agreed, we can work on that together. Second, this stays strictly professional, no real emotions, no complications. Of course, he said, though something flickered in his eyes. Third, I need to be able to walk away if things get too uncomfortable. No questions asked, full payment honored. You have my word. Ivana took a deep breath, hardly believing what she was about to say. Then, Mr. Cyrus, I believe we have a deal. Leander, he corrected gently. If we're dating, you should probably use my first name. Leander, She tested the name, letting it roll off her tongue. And what's our story? How did the rebel tech entrepreneur and the corporate attorney fall in love? He grinned, reaching for the dessert menu. Well, it all started in a coffee shop on Michigan Avenue. As they spent the next few hours crafting their love story, neither could shake the feeling that they were writing something more than fiction. Outside, Chicago's winter wind howled past the restaurant's windows, but inside, in the warm glow of conspiracy and connection, two people who had spent their lives fighting to be seen were finally seeing each other. Mother Angelina's words echoed in Ivana's mind. Life is complicated, baby girl. Looking at Leander's animated face as he described his family's Christmas traditions, she couldn't help but think that complicated didn't begin to cover what she was getting herself into. But maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what she needed. The evening stretched on, their conversation flowing as naturally as the wine, and somewhere between planning their fictional first date and debating their favorite books, the lines between arrangement and authenticity began to blur. Neither was ready to acknowledge it yet, but as they finally stepped out into the cold Chicago night, something had shifted. "So," Leander said, helping her into her coat, "ready to be my Christmas miracle?" Ivana laughed, the sound carrying across the quiet street. "Ready to be your Christmas chaos, more likely." "Even better," he smiled, and for a moment they stood there, snow falling softly around them, two people on the brink of something neither could predict. The game was set, the players chosen, the stage prepared. All that remained was to see who would break first, the masks they wore, or the hearts they were trying to protect. Chapter 4. Ghosts of Christmas Past. The week following their dinner at Le Colonial unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. What began as practice dates to establish their cover story evolved into something neither Ivana nor Leander had anticipated. Moments of genuine connection that caught them both off guard. On a crisp Sunday afternoon, they found themselves walking along Lake Michigan's frozen shoreline. The winter sun cast long shadows across the snow-dusted beach as Ivana shared stories of her childhood in Detroit. "Mother Angelina worked 3 jobs after Dad died," she said, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. "Hospital cafeteria during the day, cleaning offices at night, and weekends at the church daycare. She never complained, never let me see her cry. But sometimes I'd wake up at night and hear her praying, just asking for the strength to make it one more day." Leander listened intently, his steps matching hers. "How old were you when he passed?" 12. He was a military man, served 2 tours in Afghanistan, survived war only to die on an icy Detroit highway. She paused, watching a seagull wheel overhead. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. That must have been incredibly hard. It was, but Mother Angelina, she's something else. You know what she did with the military death benefits? A small smile played at her lips. She could have moved us to a better neighborhood, bought a newer car. Instead, she invested in my education, private tutoring, SAT prep courses, college application fees. She said, "Baby girl, your mind is your ticket to a future your father and I dreamed of." They reached a bench overlooking the lake, and Leander brushed off the snow so they could sit. "She sounds remarkable." "She is, which is why I hate lying to her about this." Ivana gestured between them. "She was so excited when I told her I was bringing someone home for Christmas." "We're not exactly lying," Leander offered. "We're just presenting an alternate timeline of events. Says the man who's paying me to be his girlfriend." But there was no judgment in her voice, only a hint of teasing. "Speaking of which," Leander shifted to face her, "we should probably discuss how we fell in love. Your mother will want details." "Well, we have the coffee. Shop meet cute. Right, I nobly rescued you from caffeine deprivation. I believe I said I prefer to buy my own drinks, Ivana reminded him with a laugh. Ah, but you accepted dinner. Because I was intrigued by your desperate proposition. I prefer to think of it as strategic partnership. Their eyes met, and for a moment the playful banter gave way to something deeper. Ivana looked away first, focusing on the distant horizon where lake met sky. "Tell me about Sarah," she said quietly. Leander stiffened slightly. "How did you—" "Your sister's texts. I saw her name when your phone lit up at dinner. At least, Sarah knew how to handle the family." A heavy silence fell between them. Finally, Leander spoke, his voice carrying the weight of old wounds. "Sarah Mitchell. Harvard Business School, old Boston family, everything the Cyrus clan could want in a daughter-in-law. We were together for 3 years, engaged for 1. She understood the pressure of family legacy, or so I thought." "What happened?" "I left Cyrus International. Suddenly the rebellious heir wasn't so charming anymore. She stuck around through the first few months of Helios Solutions, but when investors started pulling out, thanks to my father's interference..." He shrugged. "She said she couldn't watch me throw everything away. 2 weeks later she was dating my best friend from college. They're married now, living the perfect Upper East Side life." "I'm sorry," Ivana said softly. "Don't be. It taught me something valuable about love and loyalty." He turned to her with a wry smile. "At least our arrangement has an expiration date. No messy feelings, no disappointed expectations." But even as he said it, something shifted in the space between them. Ivana found herself studying his profile, the strong line of his jaw, the subtle flecks of gold in his brown eyes, the way his mouth curved slightly at the corners, even in repose. "Your turn," he said suddenly. "My turn?" "To share a ghost. Fair's fair." Ivana considered deflecting, but something about the moment, the quiet beach, the distant sound of waves, the strange intimacy they'd built over the past week, made her want to be honest. "His name was Marcus," she said finally. "Another attorney, worked for a rival firm. We met at a bar association event, started dating. Everything was perfect until he told me I was different from other black women. Like it was a compliment." She laughed, but the sound held no humor. "When I called him out on it, he said I was being too sensitive, that I should be flattered he saw past my race. Please tell me you destroyed him." "Better. I beat him in court 3 months later. A case he thought was a sure win. The look on his face when the judge ruled in my favor." Now her laugh was genuine. "Sometimes justice wears a black robe and carries a gavel," Leander grinned. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "Too late, Mr. Cyrus. You already hired me to deceive your entire family." "Best decision I've ever made." The words hung in the air, heavy with implications neither was ready to examine. A gust of wind off the lake made Ivana shiver, and without thinking, Leander shrugged off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. "I don't need," she began. "I know you don't need it," he interrupted gently. "But sometimes it's okay to accept help, even if you don't need it." The gesture reminded her of her father, who used to do the same thing on cold Detroit mornings while walking her to school. The memory, combined with the warmth of Leander's coat and the sincerity in his eyes, made something flutter in her chest, something dangerous and unexpected. "We should practice dancing," she said abruptly, standing up. "If there are going to be galas, we need to look convincing on the dance floor." "Now? Here? Why not?" She held out her hand, grateful for the chance to shift the energy between them. "Show me what those expensive boarding school lessons taught you." Leander stood, taking her hand with exaggerated formality. "My lady." Don't push it." But she was smiling as he pulled her into a proper dance frame, humming a waltz under his breath. They moved together on the snowy beach, their footprints creating patterns in the fresh powder. To any observers, they must have looked crazy, or crazy in love. "Your family will expect a story," Ivana said as they turned, "about when we knew this was real." "The truth often works best for lies," Leander replied. "We'll tell them about walking on the beach in winter, dancing like fools in the snow, sharing our stories. Just leave out the part where you're paying me. Just that one detail." They continued to dance, their movements growing more natural with each step. Ivana tried to ignore how well they fit together, how easily they'd fallen into this rhythm. It was just practice, she reminded herself. Just another detail to perfect for their performance. But as the sun began to set over Lake Michigan, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, she couldn't help but wonder if they were practicing their way into something far more complicated than either had bargained for. "Penny for your thoughts?" Leander asked, noticing her distraction. "Just wondering what your family will make of all this, of me. They'll be shocked, scandalized, and thoroughly thrown off balance." He smiled down at her. "It will be magnificent. And what about after? When the holidays are over and we go back to our real lives?" Something flickered in Leander's eyes. Regret, fear, hope. But before he could answer, his phone buzzed with another message from Charlotte. Reality crashed back in, reminding them both why they were really here. Ivana stepped back, letting her hands fall from his shoulders. "We should head back," she said. "It's getting cold." "Right. Of course." Leander checked his phone, his expression closing off. "Charlotte's asking about our Christmas travel arrangements. We should probably figure those out." And just like that, they were back to business. But as they walked back along the beach, their footprints overlapping in the snow, neither could shake the feeling that something had shifted, that the ghosts they'd shared had somehow made room for new possibilities, new dangers, new ways to break the hearts they'd both worked so hard to protect. The sun disappeared behind the Chicago skyline, taking with it the magic of their afternoon. But the warmth of Leander's coat still wrapped around Ivana's shoulders, and the echo of their dance still hung in the air, a reminder that sometimes the most convincing lies grow from seeds of truth. Chapter 5. Rehearsal Dinner. The exclusive Chicago Club's crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the annual Preston and Morgan Holiday Gala, but Ivana Bastian felt anything but warm. She stood at the edge of the ballroom, watching the city's legal elite mingle and network, playing their usual games of power and prestige. Her crimson gown, a Vera Wang that had cost a month's salary, felt like armor against the subtle glances and whispered comments. "Darling, you look absolutely stunning." Margaret Whitman's voice carried across the marble floor, dripping with the false warmth Ivana had come to expect from the senior partner's wife. As she approached, trailing the scent of expensive perfume, Ivana steeled herself for another round of carefully crafted microaggressions. "Mrs. Whitman, how lovely to see you," Ivana replied, her professional mask firmly in place. "I was just telling the ladies how remarkable it is," Margaret continued, gesturing to her circle of socialite friends. "The way you handled the Richardson merger, quite impressive for someone of your background." Before Ivana could respond, a familiar voice cut through the tension. "Actually, handling multi-billion-dollar mergers is rather standard for someone of Ivana's exceptional talents." Leander appeared at her side, looking devastating in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. He handed her a glass of champagne and slipped an arm around her waist with practiced ease. They'd been rehearsing such moments all week. Margaret's eyes widened with recognition. "Leander Cyrus, I had no idea you two were—" She trailed off, looking between them with poorly concealed shock. "Dating?" Leander supplied cheerfully. For several wonderful months now. Though I must say, watching Ivana in action during the Richardson merger was quite the aphrodisiac. Nothing quite like corporate law to spark romance. Wouldn't you agree, Mrs. Whitman? The older woman's face flushed. Well, how unique. Charlotte didn't mention. My sister doesn't know everything about my life, thankfully. Leander's smile remained pleasant, but his eyes held a warning. Though I'm sure she'll be thrilled to meet Ivana at our family Christmas celebration next week. Margaret retreated hastily, no doubt rushing to spread the gossip. As soon as she was out of earshot, Ivana let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. My hero, she said dryly, but gratitude colored her tone. Consider it practice for Aspen. Leander's hand remained at her waist, warm and steadying. Though I must say, you handled prejudice with far more grace than I would. Years of practice. Ivana took a sip of champagne. Did you see her face when you mentioned Christmas with your family? I thought she might faint. Wait until she calls Charlotte. The news will hit the Chicago social circuit like a bomb. Speaking of bombs, Ivana nodded toward the entrance, where Jonathan Preston III, the firm's managing partner, was making his way toward them. Ms. Bastian, Preston's voice boomed with artificial joviality. And Mr. Cyrus, what an unexpected pleasure. I wasn't aware you two were acquainted. More than acquainted, Leander replied smoothly. Though I must thank you, Jonathan. If your firm hadn't recognized Ivana's brilliant legal mind, we might never have met. Preston's smile tightened. Yes, well, we pride ourselves on diversity of talent. Indeed, Ivana interjected, her tone razor-sharp beneath its polish, though I prefer to think of it as recognizing excellence, regardless of its package. A tense moment passed before Preston forced a laugh. Of course. You'll be pleased to know the board is considering you for junior partner, Ivana. Your work on the Richardson merger was noteworthy. How generous, Leander commented before Ivana could respond. Considering she single-handedly saved the deal when Harrison dropped the ball. Tell me, Jonathan, is Harrison being considered for partner as well? Or does mediocrity only get rewarded when it comes in certain colors? Preston's face darkened. Now see here, Cyrus. Actually, Ivana cut in, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I'd love to hear the answer to that question, especially since Harrison's billable hours are 20% lower than mine, and he's lost 2 major clients this year alone. The orchestra chose that moment to start a new song, a slow waltz that filled the awkward silence. Dance with me, Leander said, not really asking. He led Ivana away from Preston, who stood sputtering by the champagne fountain. On the dance floor, they moved together with the easy grace they'd perfected during their beach practice. Other couples gave them a wide berth, as if their defiance of social norms might be contagious. That was quite a performance, Ivana murmured. Who says I was performing? She looked up to find him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Leander. I know, he said quietly. Just practice. But seeing how they treat you, how they try to diminish you, it makes me want to burn their whole privileged world down. My very own revolutionary. Someone has to be. They danced in silence for a moment, both acutely aware of the eyes watching them, the whispers circulating through the crowd. Thank you, Ivana said finally, for having my back. Always. The word held more weight than either expected. Later that night, after they'd made their strategic exit and Leander had insisted on driving her home, they sat in his Tesla outside her building, neither quite ready to end the evening. Well, Ivana said, breaking the comfortable silence, I'd say that was a successful dress rehearsal. Indeed, though I'm not sure how much was actually rehearsal. Leander turned to face her. You know this changes everything, right? After tonight, there's no going back. The Chicago social scene will be buzzing about us. Isn't that what we wanted, to make it convincing? Yes, but... He hesitated. I need to know you're ready for what's coming. My family, their friends, they'll make Margaret Whitman look like an amateur. Ivana thought about Mother Angelina's words from so long ago. Baby girl, your worth isn't measured by their ignorance. She'd lived by that truth her entire life, fighting for every inch of respect in a world that seemed determined to deny it. I've been dealing with people like your family since I was old enough to understand what racism looks like in a designer dress, she said. The only difference now is I have a partner in crime. Leander's face softened. Partner in crime. I like that. Don't get too attached. 2 weeks, remember? Right, 2 weeks. But something in his tone suggested he was already too attached, and worse, she might be too. As she got out of the car, Leander called after her. Ivana. Yes. You really did look stunning tonight, and I don't mean just the dress. She felt her cheeks warm. Good night, Mr. Cyrus. Good night, Miss Bastian. Watching his car disappear into the Chicago night, Ivana couldn't shake the feeling that their carefully constructed plan was starting to crumble around the edges. The line between performance and reality was blurring, and neither of them seemed able or willing to redraw it. Up in her apartment, she kicked off her heels and poured herself a nightcap. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mother Angelina. Baby girl, just checking in. You've seemed different lately, happier. Is this Leander person the reason? Call your mama tomorrow. Love you. Ivana stared at the message, guilt mixing with something else, something that felt dangerously like hope. She touched her waist where Leander's hand had rested, remembering the strength and gentleness of his touch, the fire in his eyes when he defended her. Just practice, she whispered to her empty apartment. But even as she said it, she knew she was lying to herself. The snow fell silently outside her window, covering Chicago in a fresh blanket of white. In 1 week, they'd be in Aspen, playing their parts in an elaborate charade. But tonight, standing in her darkened apartment with the ghost of Leander's touch still warming her skin, Ivana wondered if they were already in too deep to find their way back to simple pretense. The Richardson merger document sat unopened on her coffee table. Work she should be reviewing. Instead, she found herself replaying every moment of the evening, the way Leander had looked at her, the perfect sync of their movements on the dance floor, the electricity that sparked between them with every touch. 2 weeks, she reminded herself firmly. Just 2 weeks. But as she got ready for bed, she couldn't help wondering if 2 weeks would be enough, or far too much, to keep their hearts from crossing the lines their minds had drawn. Chapter 6. Welcome to Aspen. The Cyrus family estate materialized through the swirling snow like a fortress of old money and even older prejudices. From the private helicopter that had whisked them from Aspen's main airport, Ivana watched the sprawling mountain mansion grow larger, a testament to generations of wealth and power that seemed to declare its dominance over the very mountains themselves. Ready? Leander's hand found hers, warm and steady against the helicopter's vibrations. Born ready, she replied, but her grip tightened on his fingers. The past week had been a whirlwind of preparation. After their appearance at the Preston and Morgan Gala, Chicago's social circuit had exploded with gossip about the rebel Cyrus heir and his unexpected choice in partners. Charlotte's increasingly frantic text messages suggested the news had reached Aspen with similar impact. Now, as they touched down on the estate's private helipad, Ivana felt the full weight of what they were about to attempt. The mansion's windows blazed with warm light, but the welcome they'd receive would be anything but warm. Remember, Leander said as they ducked under the slowing rotors, you're not just my girlfriend, you're Ivana Bastian, corporate attorney extraordinaire, Princeton graduate, and the best thing that's ever happened to me." "That last part wasn't in our script," she teased, trying to mask her nerves. "Some things don't need scripting." Before she could process the implications of that statement, the mansion's massive front doors swung open. Charlotte Cyrus emerged, a vision of blonde perfection in a cream cashmere sweater and pearls that probably cost more than Ivana's car. "Lee!" Charlotte's voice carried across the snow-covered courtyard with practiced charm. "We were starting to worry." "Weather delay in Chicago," Leander replied, guiding Ivana forward with a hand at the small of her back. "Charlotte, I'd like you to meet Ivana Bastian. Ivana, my sister Charlotte." Charlotte's smile remained fixed, but her eyes performed a rapid assessment that felt like a full-body scan. "Ivana, what a surprise. When Lee mentioned he was bringing someone, we had no idea it would be, well, you're certainly not what we expected." "I do enjoy exceeding expectations," Ivana replied smoothly. "It served me well in corporate law." "Ah, yes, Preston and Morgan. Daddy mentioned you handled the Richardson merger." Charlotte's tone suggested handling mergers was akin to handling the help. "How progressive of them." "Actually," Leander cut in, his voice carrying an edge, "Ivana's being considered for junior partner, youngest in the firm's history. Isn't that right, darling?" The endearment rolled off his tongue with surprising naturalness. Ivana leaned into his side, playing her part perfectly. "You're making me blush, love." "Oh, spare me," Charlotte muttered, then quickly recovered her society smile. "Well, come in, come in. Mother's been in a state all day, and Daddy's, well, you know how Daddy gets." The entrance hall soared 3 stories high, dominated by a crystal chandelier that could have funded a small nation. Staff members appeared silently to take their coats and luggage, their eyes carefully averted from the family drama unfolding. "I've put you in separate rooms," Charlotte announced with barely concealed satisfaction. "The blue suite for Lee, and the garden room for Ms. Bastian." "That won't be necessary," Leander said firmly. "We'll take the Lakeview suite." Charlotte's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. "But Mother isn't paying my bills anymore, remember? I think I can make my own sleeping arrangements." A tense silence followed, broken by the click of heels on marble. Victoria Cyrus appeared at the top of the grand staircase, every inch the society matron in her Chanel suit and carefully maintained mask of perpetual disappointment. "Darling," she called down, her voice carrying the slight slur of afternoon pills and premium vodka. "I thought I heard your helicopter." Leander's posture stiffened imperceptibly. "Mother, you're looking well." "No thanks to you and your constant surprises." Victoria descended the stairs with regal precision, her gaze fixed on Ivana. "And this must be the girlfriend we've heard so much about. Ivana Bastian." She stepped forward, extending her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Cyrus." Victoria ignored the offered hand. "Charmed, I'm sure. Lee, darling, your father wants to see you in his study, immediately." "Whatever father wants can wait until I've shown Ivana to our room." "The garden room is perfectly adequate," Charlotte began. "The Lakeview suite," Leander interrupted, "is where we'll be staying." "Mother, Father's concerns can wait until dinner. Right now, my priority is making sure my girlfriend is comfortable." Victoria's carefully arranged features tightened. "Your girlfriend?" "Yes, well, about that." "Darling, surely you understand how this looks. The timing, the circumstances." "Actually," Ivana spoke up, her voice carrying the same authority she used in courtrooms, "I'm quite interested in hearing exactly how this looks, Mrs. Cyrus. Please, elaborate." The challenge hung in the air like frost. Victoria's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the banister. "I simply mean," she said carefully, "that with the Hammond merger pending, and Victoria Hammond expressing such interest in reuniting with Lee, this sudden relationship seems rather convenient. About as convenient as trying to manipulate your son's love life for business advantages. Ivana's smile was razor-sharp. Fascinating moral framework you're operating under, Charlotte gasped. Victoria's face drained of colour, and Leander looked at Ivana like she'd just handed him the moon. "Our room," he said firmly, taking her hand. "Now. Father can wait." As they climbed the stairs, leaving Victoria and Charlotte in shocked silence, Ivana felt a mixture of triumph and terror. She'd just challenged one of Chicago's most powerful social matriarchs in her own home, and dinner hadn't even started yet. The Lakeview suite proved to be larger than Ivana's entire apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen expanse of the private lake. As soon as the door closed behind them, Leander pulled her into a fierce hug. "That," he whispered against her hair, "was magnificent." "That was possibly stupid," she countered, but made no move to pull away. "I may have just made this whole 2 weeks significantly more difficult, or significantly more interesting." He stepped back but kept his hands on her shoulders. "Do you know how long I've wanted to see someone stand up to my mother like that? I thought we were supposed to be subtle." Subtle went out the window the moment Charlotte tried to separate us. Besides ... His eyes sparkled with mischief. "You have to admit, this is more fun." Before she could respond, a knock at the door announced the arrival of their luggage. As the staff efficiently unpacked their carefully coordinated wardrobes, another detail they'd planned meticulously, Ivana caught sight of herself in an ornate mirror. She looked different somehow, stronger, more defiant. Or maybe that was just the reflection of Leander watching her with undisguised admiration. "Dinner's at 8, he said once they were alone again. "Black tie, full formal, maximum drama." "Should I wear the red Vera Wang? Really give your mother something to clutch her pearls about?" "God, you're perfect." The words slipped out before he could catch them, and for a moment neither of them breathed. "Leander..." "I know," he cut her off quickly. "Just practice. Just pretend." But as they began preparing for dinner, moving around each other with domestic familiarity they'd developed over the past week, Ivana couldn't help but wonder how much of this was still pretense and how much had become dangerously real. The answer, she suspected, would reveal itself over the next 2 weeks. And watching Leander adjust his bow tie in the mirror, his eyes meeting hers with warmth and promise, she wasn't sure she was ready for what that revelation might mean. A text from Mother Angelina lit up her phone. "Remember, baby girl, you're a bastion woman. We don't break, we don't bend, we rise." Looking at her reflection next to Leander's, Ivana straightened her shoulders. Whatever game they were playing, whatever hearts they were risking, one thing was certain. The Cyrus family had no idea what they were up against. Let the games begin. Chapter 7. Cracks in the Facade. The Cyrus family dining room could have hosted a state dinner. A table that seated 30 stretched beneath 3 crystal chandeliers, though tonight only 8 places were set with Limoges china and sterling silver. The winter storm raged outside floor-to-ceiling windows, but inside a different kind of storm was brewing. Ivana smoothed the silk of her red Vera Wang gown, a deliberate choice that made her dark skin glow and her presence impossible to ignore. Leander's hand rested at the small of her back as they entered, a gesture that had become less performance and more instinct over the past week. Lawrence Cyrus stood at the head of the table, a tumbler of scotch in his hand and 60 years of privilege in his bearing. His steel-grey eyes assessed Ivana with the same calculating gaze he used to evaluate business acquisitions. "So," he said, not bothering with pleasantries, "you're the one who saved the Richardson merger." "I led the legal team, yes," Ivana replied coolly. though I prefer to think of it as protecting both parties' interests while maximizing potential growth opportunities. A flicker of something, surprise, respect, crossed Lawrence's face. Interesting perspective. Most lawyers I know just aim to win. Then you're acquainted with mediocre lawyers, Mr. Cyrus. Ivana accepted the wine a server poured. True excellence isn't about winning, it's about creating solutions that stand the test of time. Charlotte choked slightly on her drink. Victoria's hand tightened on her own wine glass. But Lawrence Cyrus laughed. Well, well, no wonder you've caught my son's attention. Please sit, both of you. The seating arrangement was clearly strategic. Leander and Ivana on one side, Charlotte and her husband James on the other, with Lawrence and Victoria at the ends. 2 additional place settings remained empty. Are we expecting others? Leander asked, helping Ivana into her chair. The Hammonds are joining us, Victoria announced with pointed sweetness. They were already in Aspen, and when they heard you were here... How convenient. Leander's voice could have frozen the soup course. Though you might have mentioned this earlier, Mother. Oh? Like you mentioned bringing home a significant other? Before Leander could respond, the butler appeared. Mr. and Ms. Hammond have arrived. Victoria brightened immediately. Sarah, Robert, how wonderful you could join us on such short notice. Ivana felt Leander tense beside her as Sarah Hammond glided into the room, the perfect society princess in ivory cashmere and diamonds. Behind her, Robert Mitchell, who Ivana recognized as the best friend who'd married Leander's ex-fiancée, looked decidedly uncomfortable. Lee, Sarah's voice dripped honey and memory. It's been too long. Not long enough, Leander muttered, then louder. Sarah, Robert, I'd like you to meet Ivana Bastian, my girlfriend. Sarah's perfect smile faltered for just a moment. How unexpected. Father mentioned you were seeing someone, but you assumed it couldn't possibly be someone like me. Ivana finished pleasantly. How fascinating. Please tell me more about your assumptions. An awkward silence fell as servers brought out the first course, a delicate butternut squash soup that probably cost more than Ivana's first car. So, Ivana, Robert attempted conversation. Lee tells us you're with Preston and Morgan. Senior associate, yes, though I'm being considered for junior partner. Really? Sarah's surprise seemed genuine. That's progressive of them. There's that word again, Ivana noted. Progressive, like excellence can't exist without qualification when it comes from unexpected sources. Charlotte jumped in, clearly trying to salvage the situation. James, darling, tell everyone about the new yacht club membership. But Lawrence cut across his son-in-law's response. Actually, I'm more interested in hearing about Helios Solutions. Leander, your last investor meeting was problematic, I hear. Funny how that happens when someone's undermining my contacts, Leander replied evenly. Almost like having a powerful enemy in the industry. Or perhaps your personal choices are making investors nervous. Lawrence's eyes flicked to Ivana. Image matters in our world, son. If by image you mean prejudice masquerading as business concerns, then yes, I suppose it does. Leander's hand found Ivana's under the table. Fortunately, I'm more interested in actual results than outdated perceptions. Results? Lawrence scoffed. Your company is bleeding money. My company is revolutionizing solar technology for underserved communities, but I wouldn't expect you to understand the value of something that can't be measured in quarterly profits. No? Lawrence's voice turned dangerous. Then explain it to me. Explain how throwing away your inheritance, your position, your suitable engagement, Sarah flinched, all fits into this grand vision of yours. The tension in the room could have been cut with the fine silver butter knives. Ivana watched Leander struggle with years of accumulated rage and hurt and made a decision. Actually, Mr. Cyrus, she spoke up, her voice carrying the same authority that had won her the Richardson merger, I'd love to tell you about Helios Solutions' latest breakthrough. You see, while traditional solar companies focus on high-end residential installations, Leander's team has developed a modular system that's both more efficient and significantly more cost-effective. All eyes turned to her as she continued, laying out the business case with precision and passion. She'd done her homework, studying Helios's projects extensively during their week of preparation. The pilot program in Detroit, my hometown coincidentally, has already reduced energy costs by 60% in participating neighborhoods. The social impact is impressive, but the real potential lies in scalability. Once the patent comes through... Patent? Lawrence interrupted sharply. What patent? Leander squeezed her hand in warning, but Ivana was already committed. The new photovoltaic cell design, it's revolutionary, increases efficiency by 40% while reducing production costs by half. The patent application is pending, but early reviews from the office are extremely promising. Lawrence's expression shifted from dismissive to calculating. Sarah and Robert exchanged looks. Charlotte stopped pretending to eat her soup. You never mentioned a patent, Victoria said to Leander, because it wasn't relevant to anyone but my team. He replied tightly, and it still isn't. On the contrary, Lawrence set down his scotch. This changes everything, a patent like that, with Cyrus International's resources behind it. No, Leander's voice was firm. Helios remains independent. Don't be foolish, son. You've made your point with this little rebellion, but it's time to come home. Bring your patents, your technology. We can make it work within the family business. And what about my actual family? Leander stood suddenly, his chair scraping against expensive hardwood. What about the woman I love? Is she welcome in this grand reconciliation plan? The word love hung in the air like a thunderclap. Ivana's heart stuttered. This wasn't part of their script. Victoria recovered first. Darling, be reasonable. Certain arrangements can be made for discretion, but marriage is about more than emotion. It's about legacy, about proper partnerships. Sarah understands this, don't you, dear? Sarah nodded, though she wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Robert shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I see, Leander said quietly. So nothing's changed. It's still all about appearance, about what's proper and suitable. Well, let me be clear. I love Ivana. She's brilliant, beautiful, and more suitable than anyone you could choose for me. And if you can't accept that, you can keep your resources, your reconciliation, and your racism disguised as concern. He turned to Ivana, who sat stunned by the intensity of his declaration. Shall we, darling? I suddenly find myself without an appetite. Moving on autopilot, Ivana stood. The room had gone deathly quiet, except for the storm raging outside. Miss Bastian, Lawrence called as they reached the door. A word of advice. Patents are public record once approved. If you're playing some kind of game with my son... The only game being played here, Mr. Cyrus, Ivana turned back with steel in her voice, is the one where you try to control your son through his company's success. But you've overlooked something crucial. Leander doesn't need your money or your approval. He's already achieved something far more valuable. He's become a man worth loving for who he is, not what he represents. With that, they left the dining room, leaving behind untouched soup and shattered pretenses. They didn't speak as they climbed the stairs to their suite, both processing the weight of words said and unsaid. Only when their door closed behind them did Leander break the silence. I'm sorry, he said softly. I shouldn't have dropped that bomb about the patent. Or the other thing. Ivana turned to face him, her red dress catching the light like flame. Did you mean it? Which part? Any of it. All of it. Their eyes met, and in that moment all the careful walls they'd built began to crumble. Yes, he whispered. God help me, but yes! The storm raged on outside their windows, but inside, something else entirely was brewing. Something that threatened to destroy their carefully constructed arrangement and rebuild it into something far more dangerous, far more real, and neither of them seemed able to stop it. Chapter 8. Midnight Confessions. The conservatory of the Cyrus estate was a cathedral of glass and tropical warmth, defying the Colorado winter that raged outside. At midnight, with only starlight filtering through the glass dome, it became a sanctuary for secrets and truth. Ivana couldn't sleep after the dinner's revelations. She'd left Leander pacing in their suite, his declaration of love hanging between them like an unexploded bomb, and found herself wandering the mansion's shadowed halls until she discovered this hidden paradise. I thought I might find you here. Leander's voice startled her from her contemplation of a rare orchid. He stood in the doorway, jacket discarded, bow tie undone, looking more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. How did you know where to look? She asked, not quite meeting his eyes. Because this is where I always came to think. He moved closer, his footsteps echoing on the stone path. When I was a kid, hiding from my father's expectations, when Sarah left me for Robert, when I decided to leave Cyrus International, something about this place, it makes the truth easier to face. And what truth are you facing tonight? He stopped a few feet away, close enough to touch, but maintaining a careful distance. That I'm not pretending anymore, maybe I never was. The admission hung in the humid air between them. Ivana's heart thundered in her chest, but her voice remained steady. Leander, I know what we agreed, he interrupted. No real emotions, no complications. But seeing you tonight, watching you defend me, stand up to my family, understand my vision for Helios when even Sarah couldn't. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. You're extraordinary, Ivana Bastian, and I'm tired of pretending I'm not falling in love with you. 1,000 responses flashed through her mind, practical ones, protective ones, professional ones. But what came out was, I'm scared. The simple honesty of it seemed to draw him closer. Of what? Of believing this is real. Of letting myself feel something that started as a business arrangement. Of... She gestured around the conservatory. All of this, your world, your family, the weight of their judgment. You've faced worse. Have I? She turned to face him fully. The racism I've dealt with my whole life, that's obvious enemy. But this is more insidious. It's polite smiles and subtle digs and progressive compliments. It's Victoria suggesting arrangements can be made as long as they're discreet. It's your father suddenly interested in Helios only after learning about the patent. I know, he said softly. I'm sorry about the patent revelation. I should have warned you. That's not the point, Leander. The point is... She took a shaky breath. The point is, I'm starting to care too much. About Helios, about your dreams, about you, and caring makes you vulnerable. He closed the distance between them, taking her hands in his. You want to know something I learned watching you this past week? Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. Every time you walk into a room full of people who've decided to judge you before knowing you, every time you excel despite their expectations, every time you stay true to yourself, that's strength. Says the man who hired a fake girlfriend to avoid his family's manipulation. Says the man who found real love pretending to be in love. His thumb traced patterns on her palm. Tell me you don't feel it too. The touch sent shivers up her arm. Leander. Tell me this is still just an arrangement. Tell me your heart doesn't race when I'm near. Tell me you don't lie awake at night wondering if 2 weeks will be enough time together or far too much time to keep pretending. Instead of answering, she told him a truth of her own. When I was 7, my teacher asked the class to draw their future. All the other girls drew princesses and brides. I drew a woman in a business suit standing alone. Mother Angelina asked me why she was alone, and I said, because then no one can tell her she's not enough. Leander's eyes softened with understanding. And now I'm terrified because for the first time in my life, I want more than being enough on my own. I want partnership. I want trust. She squeezed his hands. I want things I'm not sure I can have. Why not? Because this started as a lie. Because your world will never fully accept me. Because in a week, we're supposed to go back to our separate lives and pretend none of this happened. Then let's stop pretending. He released one of her hands to cup her face. Let's be honest about how we met, about why we're here, about everything. My family already disapproves. Might as well give them a real reason. A watery laugh escaped her. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple. It's probably going to be the hardest thing either of us has done, but he rested his forehead against hers. Isn't that what real love is? Choosing someone every day despite the complications, despite the obstacles, despite the fear? When did you become so wise? When I met a woman who made me want to be worthy of her. The words melted something inside her. Some final resistance, some last wall of protection. Standing in the starlit conservatory, surrounded by rare blooms and rarer honesty, Ivana Bastian made a choice. She kissed him. It wasn't their first kiss. They'd shared casual ones for show, brief touches to maintain their cover. But this was revelation. This was truth and tenderness and trembling possibility. This was real. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, Leander smiled. So, not just practice anymore? Definitely not. Practice. She straightened his collar, a gesture that had become habit over the past week. But Leander, if we're doing this, really doing this, we need a plan. Your father isn't going to stop trying to control Helios. Sarah and Robert's presence isn't a coincidence, and I refuse to let our relationship be used as leverage against either of us. His smile widened. There's that brilliant legal mind I love. Love, she tested the word, letting herself believe it. It's terrifying. Terrifying, he agreed, but worth it. They stayed in the conservatory until dawn, planning and dreaming and sharing truths they'd never told anyone else. Leander spoke about his brother's overdose, the family tragedy that was never discussed but shaped everything. Ivana revealed her fears about making partner, about always being seen as the diversity hire, no matter how hard she worked. As the sun began to paint the glass dome in shades of gold and rose, they finally made their way back to their suite. The mansion was stirring to life, staff preparing for another day of Cyrus family drama. Ready to face them? Leander asked as they reached their door. Ivana thought about Mother Angelina's words. We don't break, we don't bend, we rise. Ready, she said firmly. But Leander, whatever happens next, we face it together. No more pretending, no more games. Together, he agreed, sealing the promise with another kiss. The storm outside had passed, leaving behind a world transformed by fresh snow. Inside, another transformation had taken place, one that would change not just their lives, but the very foundations of the world they moved in. Let the Cyrus family plot and scheme. Let society whisper and judge. They had found something real in the midst of pretense, something strong enough to weather any storm, and they were ready to fight for it. Chapter 9. The Storm Breaks. Dawn painted the Aspen Mountains in shades of possibility as Ivana stood at the window of their suite, watching the world awaken. Last night's revelations in the conservatory had changed everything, yet the greatest challenges still lay ahead. She felt Leander stir behind her, his reflection appearing beside hers in the glass. "You're thinking too loud," he murmured, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Someone has to." but she leaned back against him, drawing strength from his presence. "Your father will make his move soon." As if summoned by her words, a knock at the door announced the arrival of breakfast and an unexpected visitor. Lawrence Cyrus stood in the doorway, impeccable in a bespoke suit despite the early hour. "A word, son?" His eyes flickered to Ivana. "Privately." "Anything you need to say to me, you can say in front of Ivana," Leander replied, his hand finding hers. Lawrence's jaw tightened, but he entered, closing the door behind him. "Very well. I've been reviewing Helios Solutions' financial records. Accessing private company documents without authorization." Ivana's legal mind kicked in. "That's concerning." "What's concerning is the pattern of investor withdrawal over the past 6 months. Lawrence pulled out his phone, displaying a graph. "Curious timing, wouldn't you say? Almost as if someone was systematically undermining your funding sources." Leander's grip on Ivana's hand tightened. "Finally admitting your role in sabotaging my company, father?" "On the contrary, I'm offering to save it." Lawrence's smile held no warmth. "The patent application you're so proud of, it's going to be challenged. Multiple claims of prior art are being prepared. Even if you win, the legal battles will drain your remaining resources." "You wouldn't dare," Leander began, but Ivana stepped forward. "Actually, Mr. Cyrus, he would." Her voice carried the calm certainty that had won her the Richardson merger. "But he's overlooking something crucial. Patent challenges require standing. You'd need to prove legitimate business interest or potential harm. Your interference would be documented, traceable, provable." Lawrence's expression shifted slightly. "Impressive legal knowledge, Miss Bastian. But you're assuming this would come from Cyrus International directly." "No," she smiled. "I'm counting on it coming through shell companies and proxy challengers, which is why I've already prepared a RICO brief outlining patterns of corporate sabotage and anti-competitive practices. One wrong move, and it goes to the SEC." The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Lawrence studied Ivana with new eyes, not as his son's inappropriate girlfriend, but as a formidable opponent. "You've been busy," he said finally. "I believe in protecting what matters." She met his gaze steadily. "Whether that's groundbreaking clean energy technology or the man I love." "Love?" Lawrence scoffed. "You've known each other for what, 3 months? This is infatuation, rebellion, perhaps even manipulation, but love. You want to talk about manipulation?" Leander's voice shook with controlled anger. "Let's talk about Sarah, about how you and the Hammonds orchestrated our relationship from the start, about how you threatened her family's company when she initially hesitated to date me." Lawrence's face paled slightly. "Who told you?" "Robert did. Last night after dinner. He was quite drunk and quite guilty about their part in your schemes. Seems marriage to Sarah isn't the triumph he imagined, not when it's built on coercion and lies. Everything I've done has been for this family's future." "No," Leander stepped forward. "Everything you've done has been for control, but that ends now. Helios Solutions remains independent. My relationship with Ivana is real and non-negotiable, and if you come after either, we'll bury you in legal proceedings so deep your grandchildren will still be dealing with the fallout." A phone buzzed. Ivana's this time. She checked it, her expression shifting from concern to triumph. "That was my contact at the patent office," she said. "Preliminary approval just came through. Any challenges now would look suspiciously retaliatory." Lawrence's calculating mind visibly reassessed the situation. "Perhaps we've all been too hasty. A partnership between Cyrus International and Helios Solutions could benefit everyone. With our resources, no." Leander's voice was firm. "No more manipulation, no more deals, no more control. I'm done playing your games." "Then you leave me no choice." Lawrence straightened his jacket. "The annual shareholders' meeting is next week. I'll be recommending the board explore hostile acquisition options for any promising clean energy startups. Nothing personal, just business. Except it's always personal with you, isn't it, Father? Leander laughed without humor. But you've overlooked something crucial. Check your email. Lawrence pulled out his phone again, his face darkening as he read. What is this? A press release, scheduled to go out in 1 hour, announcing Helios Solutions' new partnership with Preston & Morgan's Clean Energy Investment Fund. Turns out, Ivana's work on the Richardson merger impressed some very wealthy clients. Clients who believe in sustainable energy and independent innovation. Jonathan Preston would never... Already signed, Ivana interrupted, along with minority investment stakes from 3 other top firms. Helios Solutions isn't just protected now, it's positioned to become a major player in the renewable energy sector. And the best part, Leander added, every attempt you've made to sabotage my company has only made our case stronger. Nothing proves market viability quite like threatened competitors trying to shut you down. Lawrence Cyrus stood very still, decades of power and control slipping through his fingers. Finally, he turned to Ivana. You orchestrated this. No, Mr. Cyrus, your son did. I just helped him protect what he's built. She stepped closer to Leander. That's what real partners do. They support each other's dreams instead of trying to control them. For a moment, something like regret flickered across Lawrence's face. Then his mask of corporate indifference returned. This isn't over. Yes, Father, it is. Leander wrapped an arm around Ivana's waist. But if you ever want to actually know your son, the real me, not the heir you tried to create, we'll be at Mother's New Year's Eve party, as ourselves this time, no games, no pretense. After Lawrence left, the tension in the room slowly dissipated. Ivana turned to Leander, concern in her eyes. Are you okay? I've never been better. He pulled her close. You were magnificent, by the way. Remind me never to get on your bad side either. Too late, she teased. You already hired me under false pretenses. Best mistake I ever made. His kiss was tender, full of promise. Though I'm pretty sure you're the one who hired me, Ms. Corporate Lawyer, with the brilliant investment strategy. Partnership, she corrected, in all things. Outside their window, the sun had fully risen, casting long shadows across fresh snow. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world transformed, much like the two people who stood embracing in its light, their pretense shed for something far more powerful. Truth, trust, love, and the strength to fight for all 3. Chapter 10. Truth and Consequences. The annual Cyrus Foundation Christmas Charity Gala transformed the mansion's grand ballroom into a winter wonderland. Crystal icicles dripped from chandeliers, white roses and silver branches created ethereal centerpieces, and the who's who of American wealth and power mingled beneath twinkling lights. Ivana stood before the mirror in their suite, adjusting the drape of her silver gown, another Vera Wang creation that made her feel both powerful and exposed. After their confrontation with Lawrence that morning, every move they made carried extra weight. Stop, second. You guessing yourself? Leander said, appearing behind her in perfect black tie. You look breathtaking. It's not about how I look, though she smoothed the fabric again anyway. Your father's counterattack will come tonight, in front of all these witnesses, all these potential investors. Let him try. Leander's hand settled on her shoulders, warm and steady. We have truth on our side now. No more hiding, no more games. Speaking of truth, Ivana turned to face him. We need to discuss Mother Angelina. His hands dropped to his sides. Ah, that conversation. I can't keep lying to her, Leander, especially not now that this is real. She gestured between them. She deserves to know how we actually met. Before he could respond, a knock at the door announced Charlotte's arrival. She entered without waiting for permission, looking troubled beneath her society smile. "The Hammonds just arrived," she announced, "with company." "What kind of company?" Leander asked warily. "The kind that carries press credentials. Apparently Sarah's father invited several financial reporters. They're very interested in hearing about Helios Solutions' new partnership announcements." Ivana and Leander exchanged looks. This was Lawrence's play, trying to force their hand, make them reveal their relationship's origins in front of the press. "Well," Ivana said calmly, "they're about to get quite a story." Charlotte studied them both, something shifting in her expression. "You know, when Mother first told me about this," she gestured between them, "I thought it was just another of Lee's rebellions. But it's not, is it? This is real." "More real than anything in this house," Leander replied. "Then you should know, Father's been meeting with the Hammonds all afternoon, whatever they're planning." She twisted her diamond wedding rings nervously. "Be careful, both of you." After she left, Leander turned to Ivana. "Ready to face the wolves?" "Born ready." She reached for his hand. "But first, call Mother Angelina. Put her on speaker." His eyes widened. "Now?" "Now. Before we walk into whatever storm is brewing downstairs. I want to start this night with a clean conscience." Leander stared at her for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. The call connected after 2 rings. "Baby girl!" Mother Angelina's warm voice filled the room. "I was just thinking about you. How's that fancy Christmas celebration?" "Mama, there's something we need to tell you." Ivana squeezed Leander's hand. "About how Leander and I really met." Over the next 10 minutes they laid out the truth, the coffee shop arrangement, the pretense, and how real feelings had grown from artificial beginnings. When they finished, silence stretched across the line. "Mama?" Ivana's voice wavered slightly. "Please say something." "Oh, baby girl." Mother Angelina's laugh was rich with understanding. "You think I didn't know?" "What?" "Chili, I've known you since before you could walk. You think I couldn't hear it in your voice when you first told me about him? All proper and rehearsed, like you were arguing a case instead of talking about love? But you didn't say anything." "Sometimes love needs a little room to grow, even if it starts in strange soil." Mother Angelina's voice softened. "The question is it real now?" "Yes," they answered in unison, then shared a smile. "Well then, that's what matters. Though Leander—" "Yes, ma'am?" He straightened instinctively. "You ever play games with my baby girl's heart again, they won't find enough of you to bury in that fancy family plot." "Yes, ma'am. I mean, no, ma'am. I mean, I love your daughter." "Humph. We'll see. Now go handle whatever rich folk drama you've got brewing. And Ivana." "Yes, Mama?" "Remember what I always tell you." Ivana's voice joined her mother's. "We don't break, we don't bend, we rise." After ending the call, they stood in strengthened silence. Then Leander pulled Ivana close, pressing his forehead to hers. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For making me brave enough to face the truth." The sound of orchestra music drifted up from the ballroom. Ivana stepped back, smoothing Leander's bow tie. "Ready to face more truth?" "With you?" "Always." They descended the grand staircase together, all eyes turning to track their entrance. The whispers started immediately, about Ivana's obvious beauty, about Leander's protective stance, about what their public appearance meant for Cyrus International's future. Sarah Hammond stood with her father near the champagne fountain, her perfect smile faltering as she watched them pass. Robert hovered nearby, looking increasingly uncomfortable with his role in the evening's drama. Lawrence and Victoria held court near the orchestra, she with a death grip on her champagne flute, he with calculation in his eyes as he spoke with a cluster of reporters. "Mr. Cyrus," one of the journalists broke away, approaching them with recorder extended. Is it true that Helios Solutions has secured major new investment? Any comment on rumors of a partnership with Preston and Morgan? Before Leander could respond, Lawrence appeared at their side. Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere more private. Actually, Ivana's voice carried just far enough to draw attention. I think this is the perfect setting to announce our news. After all, the Cyrus Foundation Gala has always celebrated innovation and progress, hasn't it? Lawrence's warning look went ignored as Leander raised his voice slightly. Indeed, Ivana and I would be honored to share some exciting developments about Helios Solutions' future. More reporters gathered, phones and recorders ready. Victoria drifted closer, her social mask cracking slightly. Sarah and her father exchanged worried glances. The truth is, Leander continued, his hand finding Ivana's, Helios Solutions represents more than just clean energy technology. It represents the future, one where success isn't measured by last names or social connections, but by innovation and integrity. And this new partnership? A reporter pressed. How does Preston and Morgan's investment fund fit in? It's a perfect alignment of values, Ivana answered smoothly. Both firms believe in supporting independent innovation and sustainable progress. The fact that we found each other. She smiled up at Leander, letting real feeling show. Well, sometimes the best partnerships grow from unexpected beginnings. Speaking of partnerships, Lawrence cut in smoothly. Perhaps this would be a good time to discuss the possibility of Cyrus International's involvement. I think we've had quite enough discussion of business arrangements, Victoria interrupted, her smile brittle. This is a charity gala, not a board meeting. But the reporters sensed blood in the water. Mr. Cyrus, the younger Mr. Cyrus, there are rumors that your father attempted to sabotage Helios Solutions' early funding. Any comment? Only that the truth has a way of coming to light, Leander replied diplomatically, just like love. A collective inhale rippled through the crowd. Sarah's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Love? The word echoed from several journalists' mouths. Yes, love. Leander turned to face Ivana fully. Would you like to tell them how we really met, darling? About coffee shops and arrangements, and how sometimes the best things in life start with a lie, but grow into the deepest truth. The room held its breath. Victoria swayed slightly. Lawrence's face darkened with fury. But Ivana, looking into Leander's eyes, felt nothing but certainty as she spoke. We met because he needed a fake girlfriend for Christmas, she announced clearly. He got a real partner instead, and anyone who has a problem with that, with us, can take it up with our team of corporate lawyers. The explosion of camera flashes and questions was immediate, but Leander and Ivana stood steady, hands clasped, faces serene. Let them ask their questions. Let them write their stories. The truth, once spoken, had a power all its own. This is outrageous, Lawrence sputtered. You're making a mockery of what, father? Your carefully maintained illusions? Your social prejudices disguised as business concerns? Leander's voice carried authority he'd inherited, but never used until now. The only mockery here is pretending that love and success have to follow your narrow definitions. The orchestra had stopped playing. The entire ballroom seemed frozen in tableau, watching this family drama unfold against a backdrop of crystal and silver. Then, from the back of the crowd, slow applause began. Charlotte stepped forward, her face both terrified and determined. He's right, she said, her voice shaking slightly. We've all been living father's lies for too long, playing roles instead of being real. She turned to her husband, James. I want a divorce. The gasp that went through the room was audible. Victoria actually dropped her champagne glass. Charlotte! Lawrence barked. This is neither the time nor place. Actually, Ivana cut in smoothly, I think this is exactly the time and place for truth. Isn't that what the Cyrus family claims to value? Truth, integrity, progress? The reporters' pens scratched frantically. Tomorrow's headlines were writing themselves with every word, but in that moment, standing proud in her silver gown with Leander's hand warm in hers, Ivana didn't care about headlines or society gossip or even corporate fallout. She cared about the light in Leander's eyes, the strength in his touch, the future they could build together. Let the storm break. They were ready for whatever came next. Because sometimes the biggest lies lead to the deepest truths, and sometimes love is worth every consequence it brings. Chapter 11. Broken Pieces. The aftermath of the charity gala exploded across social media and financial news within hours. Cyrus Ear's fake relationship turns real competed with Clean Energy startup battles family sabotage for headline space. But it was the more personal fallout that threatened to shake their world apart. Victoria Cyrus had been rushed to her private physician after collapsing in what the family spokesperson termed a minor anxiety episode. Charlotte had barricaded herself in the estate's east wing, refusing to speak to anyone except Ivana and Lawrence. Lawrence Cyrus had retreated to his study with his lawyers, a move that never boded well for anyone. "You should go talk to your sister," Ivana said softly, watching Leander pace their suite. Snow fell heavily outside, turning the world white and silent. "She needs family right now." "I'm not the family she needs." He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "God, what a mess. I never thought Charlotte would choose truth like you did." Ivana caught his hand, stilling his movement. "She's braver than anyone gave her credit for." A knock at the door interrupted them. Sarah Hammond stood in the hallway, looking less perfect than usual in a rumpled evening gown. "Can we talk?" Her voice was rough, as if she'd been crying. "Please?" Leander looked to Ivana, who nodded slightly. Sarah entered, perching awkwardly on an antique chair. "I owe you both an apology," she began. "What Robert and I did, letting ourselves be manipulated by your father, playing along with his schemes, it was wrong." "Why did you do it?" Leander asked quietly. Sarah laughed without humor. "Fear, tradition, the weight of family expectations." She looked at Ivana. "You probably think I'm pathetic, choosing security over love." "I think," Ivana replied carefully, "that we all make choices under pressure. The question is, what choices are you making now? Robert and I are separating." Sarah twisted her wedding ring. "Watching you two tonight, seeing real love stand up to all that pressure, it made me realize how hollow my life has become. I don't even know who I am without the roles I've been playing." Leander's expression softened slightly. "You were my first love, Sarah. Part of me will always care about your happiness, but you have to find that happiness for yourself." "I know." She stood, squaring her shoulders. "That's why I'm here. Father's planning to support Lawrence's hostile takeover attempt of Helios. They're meeting with lawyers now, looking for any weakness in your patents or contracts." "Let them try," Ivana said firmly. "Our legal position is solid. It's not just legal." Sarah moved to the door. "They'll try to destroy your reputation, both personal and professional. Lawrence has investigators digging into both your pasts. He's not a man who accepts defeat gracefully." After she left, Leander sank onto the sofa. "I should have known he wouldn't give up easily." "Good!" Ivana sat beside him. "Because neither will we." His phone buzzed with a message from Charlotte. "East Wing. Bring Ivana. Need help." They found Charlotte in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by photo albums and legal documents. Her eyes were red but determined. "I need your expertise," she said to Ivana without preamble. "There's a prenup, of course, but James has been moving assets through shell companies. I need to prove financial misconduct before Father can help him hide everything." "Start from the beginning," Ivana replied, slipping into lawyer mode. Show me everything you have." Hours passed as they built their case. Charlotte proved to have inherited her father's eye for detail, documenting every suspicious transaction. As dawn approached, she finally asked the question that had been hanging in the air. "How did you do it? Break free?" "It wasn't about breaking free," Leander answered, surprising both women. "It was about finding something worth fighting for. Something real." Charlotte looked between them, seeing the subtle touches, the unconscious ways they oriented toward each other. "I want that. Not romance necessarily, but authenticity." "It's scary," Ivana admitted, "being real in a world built on pretense, but you've already taken the hardest step. Father will cut me off." "Let him," Leander said firmly. "You're a Cyrus, not just in name, but in capability. Use it. Build something of your own." A commotion downstairs interrupted their strategy session. Victoria's voice carried up the stairs, shrill with distress. "They can't! Lawrence, do something!" They rushed to the grand staircase. The entrance hall was filled with reporters, photographers' flashes creating a strobe effect. Lawrence stood in their midst, face purple with rage, brandishing a tablet. "Care to comment on these allegations?" a journalist called out. "Sources claim Cyrus International has been systematically sabotaging clean energy startups through shell companies and illegal market manipulation." Another voice. "Is it true that Sarah Hammond's marriage was arranged as part of a business merger?" And another, "What about reports that Charlotte Cyrus is filing for divorce amid allegations of financial fraud?" Ivana felt Leander tense beside her. "The press release," he whispered. "But we didn't." "No," Charlotte stepped forward, head high. "I did." Lawrence spun to face them. "You dare—" "Yes, Father, I dare," Charlotte's voice rang through the hall. "I dare to tell the truth about everything, the manipulations, the arranged marriages, the corporate sabotage, every dirty secret you've used to maintain control." "You're no daughter of mine." "No," she agreed sadly. "I'm something better. I'm my own person." Victoria crumpled against the banister. Staff rushed to assist her, but she waved them away. "Enough," she said, her voice stronger than anyone expected. "Lawrence, that's enough. Look what your precious control has cost us. Our children hate us. Our family is a headline scandal. Is it worth it?" "Vicky, no. I've stayed quiet too long, numbed myself too thoroughly." Victoria straightened, something of her former grace returning. "Charlotte, darling, I'll be your witness about James's financial dealings. I've known for years but was too medicated to act. Leander, your company deserves to succeed on its own merits, and Ivana—" Everyone held their breath. "Thank you," Victoria said simply, "for showing us what real strength looks like." The reporters went wild, cameras flashing, questions overlapping, but in that moment, something shifted in the Cyrus family dynamic. Old patterns cracked, letting light into dark places. Lawrence stormed out, his empire crumbling. Victoria stood taller, clearer. Charlotte wiped away tears but smiled. And Leander. Leander pulled Ivana close, his anchor in the storm. "Well," Ivana murmured against his chest, "I guess Mother Angelina was right." "About what?" "Sometimes you have to break things to fix them." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering yesterday's tracks, making way for new beginnings. Inside, a family began the messy work of rebuilding from truth instead of pretense, and two people who had started with a lie held each other, knowing that sometimes love's greatest gift is the courage to face reality and change it. Chapter 14. True Colors. 1 year later, the Cyrus estate in Aspen looked vastly different from the night Ivana first arrived. Gone were the intimidating security gates and austere gardens. Instead, the mansion's grounds hosted a celebration of love that broke every society rule. The wedding venue defied tradition, not in the mansion's ballroom, but in its transformed conservatory, where glass walls revealed mountains touched by summer sunset. Flowers of every color and kind bloomed, refusing to conform to any formal arrangement, just like the love story being celebrated. Ivana stood before a mirror in what was once the garden room, now her favorite space for quiet reflection. Her wedding dress wasn't the expected white, but a stunning creation in deep ivory and gold, designed by a rising star from Detroit's fashion scene. Mother Angelina sat nearby, watching her daughter with tears of joy. Who would have thought, Ivana mused, that a fake Christmas date would lead to this? Baby girl, there was nothing fake about the strength you showed. You taught a lot of people about real love. Not just the romantic kind, but love for yourself, love for your truth. The door opened as Charlotte entered, looking radiant in her matron of honor gown. Her own transformation over the past year had been remarkable, from society puppet to powerful CEO and advocate for corporate reform. "You'll never guess who just arrived," Charlotte announced with a grin. "Sarah and her new girlfriend. That women's empowerment retreat really changed her life." "Good for her," Ivana said sincerely. "Everyone deserves to find their truth." A knock at the door revealed Margaret Whitman, who had become an unexpected ally and friend. The Whitman Foundation's work with underprivileged communities had made real changes, inspired by Ivana's example. "The guests are arriving," Margaret reported. "And darling, you won't believe the message boards. True Colors Celebration is trending. Your story. It's giving hope to so many women who've been hurt, who felt they had to pretend to fit in. Because Ivana and Leander had chosen to make their wedding more than a celebration of their love. They'd turned it into a statement about authenticity, healing, and the power of choosing yourself." Among the guests were women from all walks of life. Corporate executives and community organizers, society mavens and single mothers. Many had their own stories of betrayal, of being told they weren't enough, of having to pretend to fit someone else's expectations. "Remember what I always told you?" Mother Angelina stood, adjusting Ivana's veil. "We don't break. We don't bend, we rise," they said together. "And look how high you've risen, baby girl, not by changing who you are, but by being brave enough to be yourself." The ceremony itself was a testament to that courage. Instead of traditional vows, Ivana and Leander had asked guests to share their own stories of transformation. Sarah spoke about finding herself after years of living a lie. Charlotte talked about the strength to choose authenticity over approval. Even Victoria Cyrus, now sober and reconnecting with her children, shared her journey of breaking free from society's golden cage. When it was time for their vows, Ivana faced Leander with tears and triumph in her eyes. "A year ago, I was a woman afraid to trust love, convinced that success meant fitting into someone else's mold. You didn't just love me. You showed me that real love multiplies strength instead of diminishing it. That being true to yourself isn't just an act of courage, it's an act of revolution." Leander's voice shook with emotion as he responded. "You taught me that sometimes the biggest lies lead to the deepest truths. That love isn't about perfect appearances or society's approval. It's about seeing someone's true colors and helping them shine even brighter." Their kiss was met with applause and tears, but the most powerful moment came during the reception. Ivana took the microphone, addressing the gathered crowd with the authority that had once won her the Richardson merger. "To every woman who's been told she's not enough, who's been betrayed or asked to make herself smaller, you are not broken. You are not defined by someone else's inability to see your worth. Real love, whether from a partner, family, or yourself, doesn't require pretense. It celebrates your truth." The dance floor opened not to a traditional first dance, but to a celebration of individual expression. Women kicked off uncomfortable shoes, let down perfectly styled hair, and moved to the rhythm of their own joy. Mother Angelina danced with Victoria, two mothers sharing wisdom about letting children find their own path. Charlotte and Sarah laughed together, former rivals now united in their journey toward authenticity. Margaret Whitman led a group of young professionals in a spontaneous line dance, social hierarchy forgotten in the moment of pure celebration. And in the center of it all, Ivana and Leander danced, their love story a beacon of hope for anyone who had ever felt they had to pretend to be worthy of love. "Look what we started," Leander whispered, holding her close. "Look what we'll continue," Ivana replied. "Every woman here is going to take this feeling home, this knowledge that she deserves love without conditions, success without compromise." Their wedding made headlines, but not for the usual society page reasons. "Power couple celebrates authentic love," read one. "Corporate leaders redefine relationship goals," declared another. But the most meaningful responses came in private messages from women everywhere, sharing their own stories of finding strength to be real. As the night drew to a close, Mother Angelina raised a toast that brought tears to every eye. "To my daughter, who showed us that love's true colors aren't found in perfect pictures or society's approval. They're found in the courage to be real, the strength to rise above betrayal, and the wisdom to know that your worth isn't measured by anyone else's expectations." Ivana and Leander's love story became more than just a romance. It became a movement. Through their foundation's work, through Charlotte's corporate reforms, through Margaret's community initiatives, they created spaces where authenticity was celebrated and healing was possible. Their message was clear. Sometimes the hardest betrayals lead to the most beautiful transformations. Sometimes the deepest wounds teach us our greatest strength, and sometimes love's truest colors shine brightest after the darkest storms. For every woman who had ever felt broken by betrayal, their story whispered, "Rise." For every heart that had been asked to shrink, their love shouted, "Grow." And for every soul tired of pretending, their truth proclaimed, "You are enough, exactly as you are." Because real love, in all its messy, authentic glory, isn't about fitting into someone else's story. It's about being brave enough to write your own. Subscribe if you liked.